Hi everyone. Welcome back to Farrand on Film. Welcome back to our Last of Us coverage. Ollie's here. Because he's seen these things now.
I
He watched the first one. He's watched the second one. We're here now. So, Ollie, before we get into Infected, which is what episode two is called, because this is the thing that I mentioned in my spoiler-free preview, is that Sky and HBO both said, don't mention the episode titles, don't spoil the episode titles. I didn't know the episode titles. I still don't know the episode titles
yeah,
because
I
it
don't
doesn't
either.
come up in the episode. So the only way that I'm finding this out is when Sky goes, like last week was like, when you're lost in the darkness. And then like this week it's like infected. I don't know what next week's is called. In fact, while we're here, I am legitimately gonna get on Google, get on Wikipedia. There you are, The Last of Us. What's next week's called?
I kind of don't want to know.
Long, long time.
Okay, so it doesn't give anything away. That's
Doesn't
nice.
give anything away.
Yeah,
Right?
cool.
Right. So so last week, um, I've done my episode one recap. If you've not seen it, go back and watch that. Ollie, couple of words from yourself. What did you think of the first episode?
So I think rather than trying to articulate things and come across as some kind of intellectual, I should probably just read out the messages that I sent you as I was watching it.
Okay, that I
Yeah,
got because you will know from your time in my current workplace and your former workplace that the signal in there is awful. So
yeah.
when I got out of there on Thursday, I
It was
want to
Thursday.
say.
I was off because I literally couldn't leave my street because I was having a snow day.
I got four or five texts in one go.
Yeah, they all arrived so it started at 20 past one. And the first thing I sent Adam was, lol, hi, John Hannah. Because I really wasn't expecting
I
John Hannah
wasn't
to give
expecting that.
to give an incredible. Does this count as a cold opening? What they've got going so far?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I was not expecting cold openings from The Last of Us. And John Hannah has stolen the show already. He still might be my favorite thing about it. He was so good as the guy who knew everything about fungus. I loved how they kind of made it more relevant to how it could realistically happen because those of us who know cordyceps know that everything they've said about it is true. And they give it enough believability that, oh, it could infect humans, it could evolve to, if it gets warmer, nudge, nudge, climate change, which was a nice little touch. The next message was that old lady in the wheelchair was haunting
So
and
this
like
is
everything.
Joel and Sarah's neighbours, yeah,
Yeah, so
and then she starts.
that was specifically the bit where Sarah takes the DVD and she's just kind of gurning
Yeah,
in the background in that kind of out of focus.
yeah,
Very reminiscent to, I've not seen it chapter two, but I remember the old woman being out of focus and
yes,
horrifying in the
yes,
background there, and that being a really good trailer.
yeah. That
Um,
wasn't just referring to her being fed biscuits in the front lawn. It was the gurning in the wheelchair that was
yeah,
terrifying.
it wasn't her whole demeanor. It was that, and then when it was infected, I like the kind of tendrils out of the mouth
I was
thing.
going to ask you about the tendrils because the tendrils are a bit of a big sort of almost a bone of contention in that they've
The bone of
replaced the
contention is that they've
spores.
got rid of the spores
Yeah.
because like I like the tendrils because the games it never really made sense that them biting you caused an infection
Okay.
because the whole point of cordyceps is that you breathe it in
Right.
because it's a
Okay.
fungus
Okay.
because
Right.
it is real, it affects insects. I've shown a video to so many of my students, and it's David Attenborough narrating it, so you know it's the good stuff. And there's a time lapse video of a mushroom just bursting out of a bullet ant's head.
Wow.
It's just
Okay.
this flute that kind of just grows up and grows up. I would recommend watching it if you haven't seen it.
Okay.
You, Adam, and you out in podcast land. It's horrifying and
Right.
it's awesome. But it is basically how they describe it. I think the suggestions behind getting rid of the spores was because Pedro Pascal is just sick of wearing masks.
I thought you were going to say because he's so beautiful.
Yeah, well, that too, obviously. But he's sick of wearing masks
Yes.
and he doesn't really want to do it anymore. I think And again, like, it makes sense because, like, them wearing gas masks wouldn't actually, if you're gonna have cordyceps infecting people, it would get into their clothes and then get out. So,
Yeah,
like,
I remember. I think I saw that you tweeted someone about it landing on the flannel shirt.
yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah.
like all it would take is for it to land on one of Joel's many immaculate flannel shirts and just be carried in the fabric, and then he goes to see his brother Tommy at the dam later on.
Mm-hmm.
Spoilers, I guess, if you haven't played the
Mm-hmm.
game. And he just infects everyone there because he's covered in spores, and that's what spores do.
Yeah.
So, like, literally just wearing a gown. I get that the whole mechanic is like, oh, isn't it cool that Ellie doesn't need to bother with it and stuff like that? I get that. But they've made a mechanic whereby it makes sense that them biting you would infect you because that's how the spores get across.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of don't mind that.
Yeah. I thought the tendrils were very creepy, and
yeah, they're so creepy.
As Amy, who is midway pregnant and things are making her gag, she didn't enjoy the tendrils coming out of the mouth.
I think Jesus, what a good build up was the next one, and it was like all of the stuff in the background. You know, you could see like the police going, you could see elements of a disaster starting. And it's a old trick, like that. You know, oh, a story about what's happening in Jakarta in the news and stuff like that. But like, really, kind of harkens back. And then I just didn't message you again for an hour and a half because I was just engrossed. Because I think it got to that point where it was the single tracking shot in the car, which is a lot more impressive in this than it is in a game, because you've got to film around real people and stuff.
Yeah.
And the way it kind of shot for shot redid that moment, despite it being an actual live action thing, was incredible. Absolutely incredible. It looks stunning. It's got such vibes of Chernobyl already. The kind of like there's this kind of musical motif in there. It's almost like a horn going wah throughout. Like, and it kind of sounds muted and like it's got some kind of electronic effect on it. It's very this and Chernobyl. The vibe from both of them is just it just works. And Pedro nailed that key moment that you'll have discussed last week of Sarah dying. Sandy Newton's daughter as well. You recognized her.
Yeah.
Another Nepo baby. But she's actually great. It's unfair to just call her a Nepo baby.
Yeah, she is great.
Yeah. I've liked as well so far that they've done a really good balance of dialogue ripped straight from the game and new dialogue. Like, they know the lines that killed it the first time round. It's like
Joel the stuff that they don't have to change. Yeah.
Yeah, like Joel saying to her, "Where'd you get the money for this?" And she's like, "Drugs. I sold hardcore drugs." Like,
yeah.
You should have made more. You should have got me something nicer there, or whatever it is he says.
There's somewhere like it's been flipped slightly, or it ends up happening earlier. Well, like the one that I was thinking of then was Joel says to Ellie, "What are you, some sort of bigwig's daughter?" And she says, "Oh, something like that." Whereas in the game, Tess says it to her. So there's a couple of things like that, and even more to come. Where like they've switched the character who says it, or they've brought it a bit earlier than it would have been in a game and stuff like that. Yeah.
Anna Torv's a great Tess as well.
Yes.
She's incredible. I love as well that with Marlene, they were like, we literally can't beat the mocap actress from the game. We were just going to go with her.
Yeah. Carry on.
We're just going to go with her. She's great. Let's make it her.
Yeah.
We're fine. And this show is funnier than it has any right to be.
Oh, like Ellie's sass, Ellie's wit, and
well, it's not just Ellie, because you expect it from Ellie because she's a brat and she's a teenager or whatever. Yeah. But it's that moment where Marlene's like, "Okay, I get that you want to talk this out, but I am bleeding out here."
Yeah. Or like that sort of was she called Kim, the extra firefly? She's like, "I'll do it, I'll do it." And she's like, "You've got one ear off your head.
You're missing your ear. You're not doing it." Come on. And yeah, like I love how they just breeze past the stuff with Tommy.
Yes,
because that's the tutorial. That's not Tommy. Is it Tommy?
Oh, do you mean the Robert stuff? Robert with the
Robert, yeah.
yeah.
The stuff with Robert, because it's like, oh yeah, he's the tutorial in the game. Don't
Yeah,
matter.
part of me did think like, oh, we're now going to go to a big shipping dock and they're going to chuck some rocks and bricks and
Yeah,
some
and
bottles
they
and
got to
stuff
learn
like
how to
that.
use that super hearing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What's that
Right.
white silhouette over there?
Yeah.
But yeah, episode 1 was absolutely stunning. It did both the episodes so far, because I think I've said this to you off pod. Both the episodes so far have ended where I thought they would end.
Yeah.
Because I think they're good ending points. I think I predicted episode 1 would end with dun dun dun, Ellie's infected.
Yeah. I think I said this on the spoiler-free one. I think originally they said that it was going to be 10 episodes. And I think the cut of that first longer episode that we ended up with would have been Sarah's dead. But then episode 2 would have been 20 years later. And I think naturally, actually, you might pull people out of that narrative then.
Yeah, I did wonder if all the Sarah stuff would be like revealed slowly.
Almost like flashbacks.
Yeah, I did wonder if that was the direction they go. I mean, maybe like it's with Druckmann in charge of it, though. I imagine he's happy with the narrative structure as it is. He just wants to kind of introduce characters. Like I know that Frank is being introduced into this, and we never actually meet him in the game. He dies before you ever meet him in the game.
Yeah.
So like that'll
again,
be an interesting.
I can't go too much into it. I'm not going to go too much into it. It's next week's episode, but the Bill and Frank story is massively different to how it was in the game. It's very interesting. It's very well done, and it's very believable.
And
I'm
excited for Bill.
It's a very good episode. It's very
really excited for Bill.
So if we talk about episode 2 then, so we're talking Infected. Now, it kicks off in Jakarta, which I enjoyed, linking back to the news I heard on the radio and all that kind of stuff. And we've got this character who I believe is played by Christine Hakim. I might be getting her name wrong. She's a professional who's been brought in to look at the fungus, look at the cordyceps underneath a microscope, and then see and examine a body that has been infected by cordyceps. Now, again, we're basically looking at this sort of downfall of humanity. In the like John Hannah's character last week, who's just like, we lose, and then they talk to this professional, and they say, well, what do we need to do? And she's like, bomb the city,
just bomb the city,
you need to bomb the city. That's the only way you can do it, And it's just like, Jesus, this thing is like serious.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering about that because there are antifungals, like there are antifungal medicine. Athlete's foot is a fungus. So I am curious as to...
That's the one subplot that they've missed. The Ravagers.
They've left that a little bit vague as to why.
Searching for athlete's foot cream.
Yeah.
Some clicker, like rubbing it on his head.
That'd be great, that. Get the clicker with a bit of shock. Just...
Back off.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's probably different in that it's in their system, I guess. But like... Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because there just aren't that many dangerous fungal diseases.
Yeah,
publicly known within people. It is mainly athlete's foot that people go to. But yeah,
I think this was the episode that sold me on the tendrils.
Yeah,
in there's so much more, and not to sort of jump ahead a little bit, but the tendrils of like where the woman sort of goes in the patient's mouth with tweezers, pulls it out, and you can just see them like moving.
There's still a lot. That the fungus itself is still alive. I love that. Yeah.
And she just freaks out, and she's gone for. And then we'll come to it in a little bit, but the tendril stuff with Tess at the end, awful, isn't it? Like I'm gonna have to pre-warn Amy about that, because I was just saying to Ollie off pod that the way, so I've seen them all already. The way that I'm doing these is that I'm watching them at the weekend to make my notes for this episode, and then tonight on a Monday I'll watch it with Amy again. So like now I'm like, I need to pre-warn her about that, because she almost gagged just at the tendrils coming out of the old lady's mouth last week. So yeah. We get back to Joel and Tess, who are very apprehensive because Ellie's infected and they don't know what
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah. And
Ellie
Joel's got PTSD because he just punched a man to death.
he punched a man to death, and he's just like, it's a hairline fracture. It's fine. It'll heal over time.
But will
You
your
know,
mind heal, Joel?
maybe not.
Some
Um,
hurts don't go away.
but then it's the bit where sort of like they go, she's not even started to turn yet, and then Ellie starts going, And they're like, no,
Yeah, I
don't
liked
do
that.
it.
I can't. Was that in the game? I can't remember her doing that in the game.
Don't think so.
Because
Yeah,
like in the game, she's not as like she is funny, but she's a lot more no nonsense in the game.
yeah, yeah. She
Whereas here, she's a little bit more childlike, which I
I
quite
think I prefer the innocence and the naivety that comes
yeah
across in this. Yeah, I mean they're both great.
yeah.
I'm not arguing with either sort of representation,
I
you
do owe
know.
Bella
But
Ramsey an apology because I was initially like, really, Ellie? And now that I'm
okay,
seeing her, it's like, really, Ellie?
Ellie, yeah,
There's just I know said she's nailing it. I think Bella prefers they them's, but they nailed it.
Bella is nailing it,
Yeah,
and
Bella is absolutely nailing
yeah,
it. And even Pedro. I love me Pedro, but
love it.
I wasn't convinced for Joel, but yes,
Mm-hmm.
he's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Just it's so
Just
like so far, it's so well cast.
yeah, the way that it develops over the episodes as well is unbelievable.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and then I like the references to things to come. So like they've mentioned Bill and Frank. Riley got a name drop last week. Riley got another name drop here as well.
Mm.
Or not even a name drop. It's more to do with the mall.
You went in
That
there
happened.
alone.
That
What?
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were
I like the I like the illusion as well, where it's like, have you got anyone coming to look after you, like pet, mom, dad, boyfriend, and Ellie kind of like, nope,
you?
to that
Yeah.
because
The I mentioned this in the spoiler free preview. The Left Behind episode. Can't remember which number it is. It's essentially a bit of a sort of divert from the narrative, but bookended by the narrative that is happening.
yeah,
So yeah, the way that they do it, it works
I'm
quite
trying to
well.
think where it would come because I know the Left Behind story. I'm trying to think where it would come to nicely bookend it in the narrative that happens in the game, if that makes sense. I don't want you to tell me. I am curious as to what's going to precede that, whereabouts they're going to be up
Yeah.
to see the Left Behind bit because yeah, I don't know naturally off the top of my head where it would go.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe around the time they meet the brothers, I guess. And there's almost a bit of a flashback to that. That's my initial thought. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't
Oh, you
mind
mean Sam and Henry?
Sam and Henry. Yeah, that
Okay.
would be my guess. But your poker face is doing well. You're not giving much away.
Good. I'm not going to tell you. Um, yeah, it makes sense anyway. I liked Ellie's talk of super infected that burst spores onto you and split open heads that hear like bats. Like they're like infamous
Well,
super infected.
the bloaters.
The bloaters.
But it sounds like they are playing down now. We're not going to have bloaters because there was a very different reaction to her saying that, and then but they split open the heads and they can see in the dark, and then like Joel and Tess kind of stopped in their tracks and
I would
thought,
imagine maybe that they're more familiar with a clicker.
yeah, but that struck me as like if there was a super infected, like if they're talking about bloaters, Joel and Ellie. I think Joel has seen one before. He like when he first sees one in the game, he's not like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
They could go in that direction in this, I guess.
You've seen the trailer, haven't you?
No,
Okay.
I've seen. Is there going to be a bloater?
Yeah. There's
Nice.
it's not a spoiler to say that because in the trailer that you do see a bloater.
May.
And it's in a different place to where it is in the game.
Oh, that's upsetting. I love where it is in the game.
Yeah. Okay.
I am curious to see though, because we might get to a bit later, but I am curious because one of the whole points of the game is that it is a bit your style of play.
Yeah.
So it would be nice. I think it'd be really good if they did one. I get the temptation to like stealth for a bit and then it messes up and they've got an action sequence. But imagine the tension of they get through.
Yeah, just pure stealth. Yeah,
Like they manage to stealth their way through, or they throw a brick and the clickers run and get that or whatever.
yeah. I'm
But
trying to think, but yeah,
because
it
that
is.
will,
Yeah, there's. To be fair, there's quite a few set pieces from the game that they've replicated that I think really, really well. You know,
yeah.
one being the museum in
Oof.
this episode
We
that was
will, we
so
will
good.
get to the
Yeah.
museum.
Um,
Oh,
I wrote down, and I don't know why I worded it this way, but you know, here is LEC and the synchronized swim team of infecteds. And that's the bit where they see them all on the roof and they're all sort of like doing the same, turning the same way, turning back again. Yeah, but
yeah.
that's the tendrils, isn't it? That's the tendrils sort of
I
like
really like that notion. I really like them talking about because it would be fungal net like that. We know about fungal networks and it's sending messages across these not roots because they're not plants, but kind of the tendrils in real fungi will send
right.
messages to other fungi, and it makes sense that you would get them to have this almost kind of like hive mind quality. It's
Okay.
really clever, and it ups the threat
Mm,
because it
mm.
helps to organize. It's really similar to how long has it been since you played Halo?
I've never played Halo.
You've never played Halo.
No,
Jesus wept, Adam Farrand.
no,
My God. So
I'm not bothered about that.
you're a PlayStation boy, were you? You were never an Xbox boy.
No, genuinely, I had a 360 and then an Xbox
You had a
One.
360 and you didn't play
Didn't play
Halo.
Halo. I was
It
more
was so
Gears of
good.
War.
My God, Gears of War was just like it was good, but it was very, dude, bro, chainsaw Armageddon.
Yeah,
But
that's exactly my sort of remit.
so the hidden threat in Halo is this old parasitic thing called the Flood.
Right.
And it's very similar to Alien. You get like a weird little like pod thing that kind of burrows into you, infects you, turns you into biomass. When there's enough of that, it gets like vaguely sentient, and there's this thing called the grave mind, which kind of organizes it.
Okay.
And I don't think they're going to go fully that direction, but I like the idea that it isn't just this mindless plague, that there is kind of a hive mind behind it, and this idea of I like the Chekhov's gun of you could stand on something here and warn all of them within like a mile radius or whatever. That's really clever. That
Yeah.
like that sounds like an idea where Druckmann's gone after the fact. Oh crap, we could have had that in the game. That sounds really good.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
stand on this and alert all of them in the nearby area, and they're going to run at you. So it makes those stealth bits way harder because you can't
Yeah.
just like
If you
go
kill one, they're all gonna come for you. This
yeah. Tell you
yeah.
what, when they remaster The Last of Us again for like the 5th time on the next generation of consoles, maybe that's something you can add in.
Add it in. Add it in.
Yeah, because they keep doing that again. And yeah, we get it. The Last of Us is a great game. Just make a new property, Neil. And
I
maybe
really enjoyed playing the remake, you know. So
which one? There are 5.
right. So I've not played the PS3 version.
the OG.
Yeah, I got the PS4 version, which was a remaster.
Yeah.
Played that last year, and then this year I played the PS5 remake. Yeah,
Okay.
and like just the sort of mechanics and graphics of part 2, but in the part 1 story, great.
Okay.
Yeah, really
Fair
enjoyed
enough.
it. Right, so museum then. So they do a really good job of doing that thing where they're like, we're going to end up being separated because this thing's going to fall down and da. But then it's they're like clicking, you know, and it's just like, oh, right, okay. So then
they look incredible.
they look great, don't they? Like
their makeup, like even the CGI bits to get the movements a bit more janky are fantastic. But the close-ups where you actually looking down the more of this like split open head.
Yeah. I don't know if there's an Emmy for makeup and hairstyling, but
oh god,
if there is, it's having it.
Because it's one of them, as realistic as the graphics are in the games. I don't know about like the PS5 remake, to be fair. I bet that could really like sell you a gruesome picture. But with this, like on a HD camera, on a HD TV, it looks foul. It looks absolutely minging, as it should. There is a mushroom sprouting out of some dude's head.
Yeah.
I get why. I'm in two minds about this right now, actually. Like, it's a bit of a shame that there were only two of them.
Yeah.
But I do like that two of them gave them so much trouble.
Oh, that bit where like Joel's reloading his gun and he makes a noise and then he sort of goes, they're going to have heard me. He turns and it's like legged it over that display cabinet and it's straight on top of him. Jesus Christ. Honestly.
It's so good. Like,
so well done.
I bet fans of the video game are thinking, well, that's absolute nonsense, because as soon as they grab you in the game, you're dead.
Well, instantly you are dead.
Unless you got a shiv and you've bought that upgrade to shiv him in the face.
Not that early on. You're done.
Yeah. Yeah, you're done. You're done. I get as well, like,
shoot them from a distance.
I swear the first time they encounter clickers in the game is they try going through like a slightly fallen skyscraper, haven't they? So they're going through like an office block almost.
Yes, yeah, they are. They're going through an office block and they see a clicker that I think is dead and sort of fungi to the wall, like the guy that we saw in last week's episode. They move him out of the way and then they hear the noise. That gets them to sort of like try and maneuver around as best as possible. Can't do. And then when you get into the museum, that's when you sort of really face to face with them.
Since I've never played it, with the clickers, is it just a case of move slowly and quietly and you're fine? Or is it that they can, even if you're near them, even if you're quiet, they can echolocate you if you're not hidden behind something?
Yeah. So quiet and slow as best as possible. But then what they do is they'll sort of move, and then I'm assuming this is an AI thing. Say if you're sort of shoulder on, they'll turn, they'll do the sort of like echolocate scream, and if they pick you up, the sort of sound of you've been seen goes woomph, and then clickers on you straight away.
Jesus.
Yeah. So then it's
That's way worse, because I like the idea. Like, it's quite clever, the idea of you could stand in front of this thing if you really wanted to, but because it's a different way to have to deal with it. Because like, I remember seeing playthroughs and being like, well, surely you'd rather have clickers than these normal zombies, because the normal zombies can see you.
Well,
whereas the clickers, they can't see you. It's like, yeah, but they're one hit kill and they can see you if you're not careful.
Yeah,
and stuff like that. I do remember thinking a bit earlier on, like I think it's before they've decided. I think it's when they first open the door and Ellie sees like that outside for the first time, and it just looking stunning. Even though there were split moments where it's like you can tell there is a green screen because they don't walk that far back.
Yeah.
But like that look of skyscraper having fallen over and it tracks the birds flying through it and stuff like that, and it looks incredible. And I do wonder if this property like really has the advantage of the fact that a lot of us are used to seeing this look like a video game anyway.
Yeah.
So if there are any slightly shonky CGI moments, we're kind of tricking ourselves. Like, I'd be curious to see if Georgia feels the same way.
Yeah.
Or if she just looks at it and goes, oh, that's a bit ropey, that CGI.
That's why I'm intrigued by so many different people's opinions where, like, you're a cinephile, you're into series, all that kind of stuff. You're aware of the game, but you've not played it. Amy is for lack of a better word, passive but invested TV drama fan.
Yeah.
Like, she'll tell me whether or not it's a good drama or not. She'll tell me whether or not she's interested in it. I can't remember off the top of my head if this is actually in the game or not. But Ellie getting bit again.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that because I thought the whole point was.
I don't think she does.
No, because I think the whole point is that it gets compared to like someone who gets bitten later. Spoilers until we talk about that. They compare their bite to Ellie's one that she's had the entire time to make the point of this is real, because it's like she's gone on this long with a bite that we have seen for this long, and nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas I've been bitten hours, like she's been bitten weeks ago. We've been
Yeah.
traveling with her all day and nothing. This is my bite from about an hour ago,
Look at the state of it.
and it's already looking infected and grim.
Yeah. Because the difference with this and with so it's Tess's bite. Okay. So the difference between this and Tess's bite in the game is that it doesn't happen by a clicker.
Yeah.
In the game, they're going down this corridor and an infected, just a standard infected sort of comes out through a door, sort of pushes against Tess. And the assumption is that that's where it happened because it gets quite close to sort of where her shoulder is. Joe shoots them off, all that kind of stuff. And then you get the same line from Ellie of like, she's infected, So then the reveal of her bite. But then I'm fairly certain, I'm like 95% certain that Ellie doesn't get bitten again in the game. But it is a case of, in the series, at least you've got that visual thing of she's bleeding, but it's nowhere as bad as this,
Yeah.
And yeah,
I still think the original would have worked though, because I think
but
unless they really wanted to keep Joel cynical in that she's been bitten again, so we need to keep an eye on her.
Possibly, yeah.
It's just reminding me that like her saying she's infected. There's so many like perfect shot for shot things from the game. Like that's one of them. What's the line as well? There's no doubt in that view. From Ellie again. Like there's so many of those moments where they just perfectly I know a lot of these will have CGI backdrops and it's easy to do, but like the one with like the house burning was great. That she's infected, that will have been staged somewhat, and they've recreating the camera angles is tricky enough.
Even Ellie walking across the ladder and the plank, stuff like that. The one thing that got me quite giddy when I watched it the first time was just the sound of Joel taping Tess's ankle up because it's exactly the same sound.
The crafting
and I was
sound.
just
You
like,
just want to
oh
see him
God.
like, here's his bottle of ethanol, here's his scissor blades.
Yeah, I just thought it's exactly the same
Let's
sound. Go. Yeah, so as we get to the end of this episode then, so Tess has been bitten and she basically says, look, this stuff about Ellie must be true because we've both been bitten. Mine looks like this. I'm done for. She's not. She's absolutely fine. You need to take her. You need to carry on. And then she just starts pouring petrol everywhere because they know that the infected are on the way because of the tendrils saying they've just killed one of us. Get in there, go get them all.
But this is way different because she gets killed by Fedra in the game, doesn't she?
She does get killed by Fedra in the game, yeah.
She gets killed by Fedra,
through something that looks very similar. That building.
Yeah, it kind of makes the sacrifice like less grand. It's a bit more is a bit more nihilistic, which I was going to
grab my phone, but I can't grab my phone because it's what I'm using as my camera. My brother-in-law, Matthew, I was texting him the other day, and coincidentally, hi Matthew, because he's going to be watching this. He texted me about the last episode. He's wow, what a start! I cried like a child. And I said, next week's a good one. He said, is that the museum? I said, yes. And he said, Adam, I know what's coming and I'm not prepared. And then sent me Tess and a crying face emoji. And I said to him, it's worse in the show. And he said, no, I'm not ready. So, and I said, I don't think you will be.
No, it's very different in the show. I like as well, because I forgot in the game, she does, because it seems very non-Tess to tell that she's been bitten.
Yes.
But the whole point is she believes that Ellie is the cure, and she's thinking as soon as she gets into the Fireflies, they'll be able to just magic up some cure and give it to her. And then they get there and they're all dead.
Yeah.
Can't remember how they all die in the show. Not in the show. I do remember in the show. I've just seen the episode. In the game, I can't remember how they die in the game.
Fireflies,
I think it's fairly similar, or they get shot. But
I'm sure they get shot by Fedra. And then that's how it links to, But again,
and that whoops from Tess is exactly the same as well. Gone, look, have to run out sometime. It being on her. One difference as well that I quite enjoyed is they kind of, because people will have been saying about Tess and Joel for years. Oh, are they a couple? Are they not? And this one kind of addressed it because it's like, oh, Tess likes him and he's kind of not interested, but whatever. And
I would say they're a couple in a maybe companionship type situation.
yeah,
You
but
know,
there was one line she said that I swear made it hint like she wanted more from it. She talks about, I've never mind. She talks about Joel never feeling the same way just
right?
before.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she talks about
Yeah.
that just before Ellie was like, "Oh God, she's infected." She says
Right.
worse than "Oh God." Boys and girls of podcast land,
Yes,
but
she does. She does.
trying to keep it PG. Ellie says a
Yeah.
lot worse things,
Ellie says much worse things.
repeatedly much
Yeah.
worse things.
Yeah.
She's a champion. Yeah, that final hurrah is horrifying. It's like Georgia walked in and just caught that, and I don't think she had the context for it. So
Mm-hmm.
she's seen a bit of a spoiler in the story where she said, I kind of knew that there wouldn't be a woman going with them because everything I've seen of The Last of Us is just Joel and Ellie.
Yeah.
So if I'd seen her and then she'd been going out with them, I would have assumed
Yeah.
that it
I
would
think
have
this
happened.
is the thing because, like, even with like last week's episode, Amy said to me with Sarah right at the beginning, she said, "That's not Ellie, is it?" And I said, "No." And I could only assume that Amy from that point knew that Sarah probably wasn't going to make it because she's seen me play both games. She's seen, Joel Ellie, Joel Ellie, Joel Ellie, and like even the sort of, I suppose, the promotional material for it, that it's essentially them. So like it sort of it makes you wonder the question of what's going to happen when they come across other people. How long are these other people going to be around for? Yeah, yeah, and the same with Tess.
Don't forget this bit. Don't forget this bit.
Oh, that's just, it's just like when I saw it, I thought, oh my, like it's weird anyway that he went in to kiss and she went for it too, but it's the tendrils connecting together, isn't it? It's like you're one of us now.
Yeah,
One of us. One of
it
us.
might be the worst thing I've ever seen in any zombie apocalypse media.
Rank.
It
Absolutely
was.
disgusting.
Are you thinking that did I miss that then? Did tendrils come out of her mouth at that point?
I don't think so. I'd
I
imagine
think he was
no.
just. I think
Yeah.
he was just looking to infect because I've understood it as the bite is just there to hold them in place while the tendrils come in and then get
Oh,
in.
right.
Do you know
So
what I
you're
mean?
thinking that that's him sort of going over and going, I'm infecting you now.
Yeah. And
Right.
because she's
Okay.
not fighting, he feels no need to like the bite is like because ultimately
Right.
it's a living being. It knows about expending of energy and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But so like if there's an easy meal, it's gonna go for it. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Yeah.
Whereas,
I didn't think about it
she's just
that.
standing there doing the square root of sod all. So the
Yeah.
tendrils just kind of like if it could, it just kind of go up to everyone and put tendrils down the throat.
Yeah.
Which
And I mean, can in film and TV generally, can we just start getting lighters that work first time? Like the amount of time, ching,
I
ching,
will
ching,
say,
bang.
well, there's that. I did quite like that though because it gave us that tense moment.
Yeah.
I don't know why she didn't just pick up a grenade. Do you know what I mean? Just pick up a grenade,
Got it.
undo that in her hand,
Yeah.
because that's quicker than immolating herself, which is what
Yeah.
she did. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like a grenade would have set that off quicker and stuff. But like, yeah, I don't know which I'm struggling on which one I prefer. I think this was a good oh captain my captain style death.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
moment where Ellie and Joel can have a moment of reflection and look at it and stuff like that. And Tess comes off as a badass.
Yes.
But I do like the brutality of in the game. Tess kind of shoves you through the door, doesn't she? And it locks behind, and she locks it behind her. And then you're up on the balcony, on the mezzanine, and you can see Fedra get through. And
Yeah.
Tess kind of runs at them, and they
I do
just gun
think
her down. And you've not even
Fedra
got
are much more on the periphery in the season. I'd say. I think
yeah, but I think
there's
that's
more
fine. I
from
don't like because with Fedra, they're only really prominent in like the first, let's call it the first act of the game. If there's about five
yeah
acts in the game,
yeah
they're only really there when you're in the city and on the outskirts of it. That's the only place you really deal with that.
Yeah, I think.
I'm wondering as well, like,
Go on.
you know this obviously because you've seen it. I'd love there to be some like weird, creepy cult that like finds people and think. Have you ever played Dead Space?
No.
So there's a guy. It's similar vibe. It's an alien infection. Blah blah blah. But there's a guy who is like weird and religious and thinks that this is the next. This is the improvement of human evolution.
Mm-hmm.
So like he's like willingly infecting people.
Right. Okay.
So if you get like a line of people almost like in that kind of crucifix pose, and they introduce an infected to put tendrils down the mouth one by one and just slowly let it, and you get that kind of horrific shot of, oh, like, you know, a proper bit of body horror.
Oh, yeah.
You know, something Cronenberg could really be proud
of. There's a character that's not in the game that pops up in a couple of episodes' time, and she's probably the closest you're going to get to that.
Is she the one played by Charlie's crazy ex, Rose from 2.5 Men?
I don't know.
So she's like an Australian actress. Possibly. She was in 2.5 Men. She was in a couple of other things as well. But
I'll have a look for you while we finish chatting. She's called Kathleen. In the show. Yeah. So I mean that's to come. You know, that's gonna end up kicking things off. Where is she?
I liked as well. I've just remembered them taking the mick out of the fact that Ellie can't swim. I really enjoyed that.
Hey, there's no pallets here though. Yes, it is the one who plays Rose.
But Joel being like, "Are you kidding?"
Yeah,
and Ellie being like, "What? You think the swimming pool's in the QZ?" I was like, "No." And he just goes as deep as the water is. It's like, yeah, that's where it's like this show is funnier than it has any right to be, and it's not just Ellie.
Reddit has been like saying, when are the sort of stars of the game going to show up with like a bottle, a brick, a pallet, and a plank of wood, right? I hate to break this to you, but unless I am wrong, there are no pallets. I do apologise.
0 out of 5. Hate the show now.
There's never a point where Ellie is needed to mount a pallet in order for her to get past a body of water.
I imagine it will just be easier for... Because I get why they did that in the game, because animating her like kind of grabbing onto Joel's back would have been hard. Mind you, they managed it in 2001 with Metal Gear Solid 2. So Naughty Dog can manage it here.
In the game,
Ellie just has to hold her breath.
Ellie speaks for us as players playing it. When by the time you get to the third pallet, she goes, "Oh, not this thing again." And I'm like, yeah, I can't be bothered, Ellie. Just get on it so I can move.
I quite like, obviously, I've not played it, so I don't know how frustrating it feels. But like watching it, they look very intuitive puzzles, like getting Ellie across in the pallets and stuff like that. And
there's a couple that are pretty straightforward. There's a couple that you sort of need to, you know.
It doesn't feel like it overstays its welcome either. It's quite, oh, here's a pallet just to get her. I like the one where the street's flooded and it's like get her into the coffee shop and
yeah.
And it does a good job as well. I know we're talking more about the game than the show now. Like that's what helps cement Ellie as useful. Like in a world of like Ashley Graham's in Resident Evil 4 or whatever.
Yeah.
You've got Ellie who's actually worth a damn, can take care of herself. They got the AI right. Like there's all these funny memes about Ellie like running because the AI just tries to get it to look like she's hiding, but she'll like run past all the zombies.
Oh, the amount of times that I played it in that remake and she's ran past a clicker and it's ignored her, or she's ran past a buddy, actual person.
And you're there thinking, hey, Ellie, you know that knife you've got that never breaks? Just because I've got this like weird pair of scissors here, and the best I can do is it breaks after 3 hits. So maybe, this is my knife, Joel.
No, it's not happening.
Got it at the circuit. And a flick knife would be super unreliable. It would break so quickly. Yeah. Like, Bill would not be happy. Let's put it that way.
Well,
I can't wait for Bill, because me and George have been binging Parks and Rec.
Oh yeah, so we got
good old Nick
Offerman. Yeah.
Is he as good as I hope he is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
but I tell you who might steal it from him is Murray Bartlett, Frank.
I've not seen Murray. I've heard his name loads. He's one of those. I don't think I've seen him in anything.
Yeah, but he's
Um,
that whole thing of them together, the
mm,
episode, the way that the episode plays out. I'm so glad that they chose to go this way with it, because you are right in that, spoilers for the game, I suppose. When you kind of you meet Bill, and it's in Bill's town, as they refer to it, and he's set a lot of traps up, and you sort of follow Bill around, and you're killing all these infected, and you get to a house, because ultimately what you sort of following Bill for is you want a battery for a car so that they can sort of
yeah.
drive away and try and get
And
to
he's a
Tommy.
proper prepper. He's one of
Yes,
these,
he's
like,
sorted
he's
everything
got a
out,
bunker
and
full. He's got a bunker full of weapons.
yeah,
He wears body armor all the time. He's all about
yeah.
survival
So
rather than just
he
living.
realizes that, like, this battery that he knows of has gone missing, so they go and try and find it, and they get to a point where they find it, but then they also find Frank, who has
Because
hung
Frank had
himself.
taken the battery, hadn't he?
Yeah, Frank had taken the battery, he tried to sort of do one. Frank has hung himself, and again,
Because he'd been bitten, wasn't it? Though.
yeah, they assume that it was because he was been infected. They the subtlety around Bill and Frank's relationship, in that
Yeah.
there's this sort of underlying thing of like, well, it serves him right for doing that stupid old, D-Ed and whatever, and you can tell that there's a real sort of connection between them. This is a story told so much better and grander, and it's expanding the narrative and all the extra details that you get in with it, and it's really well done. The episode
But
next
do you
week's a
remember
really well done
Frank's
episode.
note?
Yeah, because basically, he leaves this note. Joe picks it up. He takes it to Bill. Bill reads it, scrumples it up, and chucks it away. Um, if people, you're playing it and you're trying to get all the achievements, after Bill scrumples it up and throws it away, go and pick it back up again. You get an achievement. But yeah.
Well, that's a really nice little narrative bit, because the whole note is. Actually, did you mind if I read it out for the boys and girls?
Go on.
Well, Bill, I doubt you'd ever find this note because you were too scared to ever make it to this part of town. But if for some reason you did, I wanted you to know that I hated your guts. I grew tired of this censored town and your set in your ways attitude. I wanted more from life than this, and you could never get that. And that stupid battery you kept moaning about, I got it. But I guess you were right. Trying to leave this town will kill me. Still better than spending another day with you. Good luck, Frank. Which is really grim, because, yeah, it is maybe hinted at that they like Bill felt something for Frank, maybe romantically, or maybe it was just, platonic best friends. He viewed him as like his survival prep. But the game doesn't give you much more than Bill looking the most human he's ever looked when he sees Frank's corpse. And like, I imagine, is there an achievement as well for like picking up the note and then just not giving it to him?
No.
Right, so everything.
That's just cruel.
Spoiler. No, but you don't give him the note because that is awful. Like, imagine that. Like, I personally would let Bill grieve over this memory he had of Frank.
Yeah, okay.
What you're doing if you give Bill the note is you're leaving him alone in this town, and the only person he's ever felt a human connection with was the person who thinks he was awful. And it's like, well, and then that would lead to Bill being like, well, what's the point in going on? And then he just offed himself. And which is, yeah. I am curious to see where that goes. I really like, and especially with Nick. Like, I know that Con O'Neill was originally slated to play him, and there's probably a level of trust from him being in Chernobyl and smashing it in Chernobyl as well. But
it's so bizarre seeing him as a shopkeeper at the minute in Happy Valley.
I'm not
you talking about him in Chernobyl, us seeing him in Batman, him potentially being Bill at one point in Last of Us, and he stood in a Nisa local with his name tag on, right? And Sarah Lancashire's sort of like stood there going,
"You're that, love.
Why have you taken my son to court?" And
why have you taken? No, you got to get the right amount of emphysema in there. Why have you taken my son to court?
No, that was Sarah Lancashire. The Con O'Neill is, he just asked me, but I said no. said no at first. It weren't anything harsh, but I just took him.
I just I it it'd be an interesting one, but it's like when you think about castings that never happened and I'd be intrigued to see. Like Tim Roth as Snape is up there. Will Smith as Neo would be
Yeah.
interesting, but like honestly, compared to what they've ended up with, I'm not interested in seeing Connor O'Neill as Bill.
I don't know if it would have. It's
I'm
hard to say.
sorry,
I don't know if it
I'm
would have
not
worked,
interested.
but
Nick Offerman
yeah,
just as soon as I
he is
heard
Bill.
that
He is
casting,
Bill.
I
Yeah,
was so excited. That was the casting news I was
yeah,
most excited for
yeah.
because I think
Offerman is Bill. Yeah,
as good as Bella Ramsey is the obvious choice for. We have an incredibly catty, bolshy teenager to cast.
yeah.
Who do we go with? So Bella is like Bella's great, but Bella's the obvious choice.
I'm intriguing to see who they cast as Abby. I'm intrigued to see who they cast as Abby.
Apparently, which one's Abby again? Sorry.
The one that basically kicks the crap out of Ellie in part two.
Oh, do you think is the plan to do
I would imagine that they are
that?
going to do part two.
Because I wouldn't mind because I don't know the stories to that. So,
Right. Okay. I think
like the last I
they
remember from
might.
the story there is Dina lies down pregnant. The needlessly attractive Asian Texan man is like lying her down on a futon, and Ellie has just played a sad song on a guitar.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Um, and like Dean has just said that she's pregnant and whatever. I think
Yeah.
that's where I left off on the story because I was watching the playthrough and the guy playing the playthrough stopped playing it, and he was like, "Well, I
Why?
don't know." I think he was one of those that like spat his dummy out about the story a bit.
Oh, no, yeah. There's a lot of people who spit the dummy out basically about the sexuality of Ellie in part two.
Well,
And
the thing that they've hinted at from minute one
yeah,
of her being on
yeah, yeah.
screen.
And the portrayal of Abby and particular on one scene in particular, where she she basically has sex with someone on a boat, and it's
Well,
because
why
they're
would she not have
attracted to
sex
each
with
other.
someone on a boat?
Yeah, they're attracted to each other. They've had an history, so they have a bonk, and yeah,
Well, not Abby and Ellie.
no,
Okay.
Abby and somebody else because like again, way ahead of you, but when they do part two, I don't think they'll be able to do part two in one season. I think they'll have to do it over two seasons
Well, it
because
seems massive, doesn't it?
yeah, it is massive. It's a massive game,
Mm.
and there are so many different elements to it. The Seraphites being one that I cannot wait to see how they do that. But yeah. Anyway,
Do you reckon they get the
sticking.
Rat King in there? Because I know about the Rat King.
That's just gonna be. Well, I'm gonna play part two again now that I've just finished part one again.
Mm.
So I'm gonna play part two. Although actually, I remembered before about saying this to you, talking to you about this, that it's about to be a very busy time for games, because I've just pre-ordered Hogwarts Legacy.
Oh, boo,
Um,
you turf.
what?
Nah, you can't put money in that witch's
Oh no, I
pockets.
don't agree with anything that she says, but the chance to be a Ravenclaw, I do apologise.
Nah, behave.
Um,
You're a Hufflepuff.
I've got an, I've got they've just they announced 2K23 today, WWE 2K23, so that's another one that I'll get. But then the one that I know that you'll be on, Fallen Order, you know,
Survivor.
yeah, Fallen. Oh
Survivor. It
yeah, it is. It's
looks
Fallen.
sick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Jedi Survivor. It looks incredible. There's a bit, I swear there's a bit where he's got like a 2 meter lightsaber blade. He's swinging it like a great sword. Like they're going full Dark Souls here. I love it because it'll be like, yeah, this is a really powerful weapon, but you better hit them, otherwise you're dead because you can swing that once and then you're screwed. Like, I just love as well, like there'll be actual Dark Souls players listening to us, maybe complain about the difficulty of Jedi Fallen Order and being like, you silly little thing.
It's all right. Anyone who was listening who is massively against Harry Potter and Hogwarts and all that kind of stuff has just absolutely downvoted this video. This video. No end. I do apologize.
What I'm really worried about though is if you see like a resurgence in your views, is like good for you sticking up for truth speaker J.K. Rowling,
Not
and
a
you're just there
chance.
like, no,
Not a
no,
chance.
get it off, get
She's
it
the
off.
she's the pillock. I just like the Potter world. I do apologize.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Dumbledore was gay the whole time, and if you didn't realize that, then you're a homophobe.
Well. Anyway, so next week, Bill and Frank.
I
Ollie's
might try and watch it. Maybe there's a way I don't know.
Ollie's gonna have to try and do something, people, because he's moving house and he might not
Yeah,
have
moving.
internet and all that
I'm
stuff.
buying a house. It's not just
Yeah.
I'm moving.
He's
I'm actually being a grown up.
a
I've got a mortgage.
homeowner.
I'm going to be on the property
I've got a
ladder.
mortgage.
I know I'm going to be 10 minutes further away from work, and I'm going to have to go on the motorway rather than the nice little back ways I know right now. So it's going to be fine. I don't know. Maybe I get a job in Cheshire with the kids that, don't vape in the toilets or something.
Do they exist?
I don't know. Maybe the Cheshire kids will be a bit more entitled, but
They'll just do it out the front.
no, they'll just take snuff instead.
Oh, great.
They'll take snuff and then joyride around on their horses.
Oh, yeah. Shetland ponies.
Yeah.
This may have been longer than the episode was. But yeah. I think we're good. I think we're good. I think we're done. So if you've not gone back and watched the episode 1 preview that I did on my own, go and watch that one. Next week's I might be on with Todd. Don't know. We'll see what happens. Ollie will pop up when he pops up. When he pops up and we rotate his camera because he was upside down when he first signed.
I was upside.
Call.
I was in Australia for some reason.
In Australia, yeah. So he's we'll see what happens. If it's just me, it's just me. If it's not, it's not. But yeah, he's going to pop up at some point anyway, so we can talk the rest of it and all that nonsense.
Like a fungus.
Hey, no stopping him. Right.
Hey.
That's it. Go over to Off-World Tees. They don't have any Last of Us t-shirts at this point, but I think they should get on it. Do us a Fedra t-shirt.
Just do something based on the title card, because that title card's insane. It's so pretty.
Yes, so pretty.
Those last 2 sprouting mushrooms, which are Joel and Ellie, as soon as I saw that, I genuinely squeed. I was like, yes, I'm in.
What I particularly enjoyed about the screeners is that the last few episodes, or maybe about halfway through, it does say that this is unfinished and it's not the final product and all that kind of stuff. So when the title card the title sequence happens, it says Pedro Pascal, Bella Ramsey, and then it goes into like art and design or whatever it is, and it just says first name, last name, and then it goes like cinematography, first name, last name, directed by first name, last name, because they just not finished it. Well, this person did a lot on this TV show.
I bet they got the important names in though. Lord Druckmann's name was in there.
No, literally the only names that were in there before that were Pedro and Bella. Honestly.
He is going to make some people work an absolute graveyard shift. He is going to get them on the grind.
It'll be ready. It's going to be ready for when it goes out on TV.
He's going to be causing problems with workers' rights and bringing controversy on a little game studio who ultimately started out because of Crash Bandicoot. Lest we forget.
Yes.
I want to see that crossover, by the way.
The Last of Us on Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, the Crash of Us, if you will.
Oh, dear. The Last Bandicoot.
And then Nathan Drake swoops in and just punches all of the cordyceps, and then they fall off a train, and then there's a weird amulet, and it's the cure. The end.
You wouldn't have anyone but Nathan Fillion come in though as Nathan Drake. So
no, I wouldn't.
Yeah. No Tom Holland.
No, I'm sorry. That was dumb decision. Mark Wahlberg would have been a better Nathan Drake. And they cast him as Sully. They decided to do a prequel movie for some reason. I love Tom Holland. He's not Nathan Drake.
No, it's way too young for that.
Way too young.
Anywho, go watch all the other stuff that we've done. Why not?
We've done loads.
Stay safe. Look after each other. We'll see you next time.
Bye.